Tutorial time! Today I did a 2.5 hour build using this piece. I believe it's an Arctic tracked vehicle from an Arctic City set that has a woolly mammoth in it. I don't know the set number. I just know I got a number of these elements. I think they look really cool. They have a lot of possibility to them. And I started by jamming in lightsaber blades through here and here, which is very legal. I could feel something like the flashing, or maybe this little piece gave way a little bit, but you can jam them in there. And what I've wound up with is a futuristic motorcycle. So there's a couple things going on here that I thought were worth talking about. They're kind of cool. One is making tires out of dish elements. I've seen it done before. That's not anything too new, I don't think, unless maybe you've never seen that before. But using dish elements to make your tires I thought was a great idea. And this new part here, what I like to do is try to see if I can always wedge rods through spaces that normally probably aren't made to have them done through that. But by jamming it through there and jamming it through there, I was able to make connection points on there. And then another cool thing I found is when you have something designed to have a Technic pin go into it, these ray gun blasters, the front part of them will actually stud in because they have a larger diameter around the outside. So that's pretty wild. Never would have thought that would have worked. But if you're familiar with the ray gun piece, it's upside down right now. It will go in there and it will fit and it'll lock pretty tightly. So that's really cool. That's a great little tip for anybody. If you see a Technic joint, you can ram one of those guys in there. Coming back, I wanted to focus a lot of time on how I built this back part here. Okay, and this is going to be a little bit of a snot tutorial, a little bit. Okay, so there's a number of tricks and techniques you can use, and I'm going to take that off. So first of all, you can see there's this Morris type snot brick with a single stud coming out, and I'm putting it right there into the tube receptor on the back of a 2x2 plate, and that's what's holding it on. So not a lot of great connectivity. You couldn't play with this as a set, but it's kind of a neat idea. So there's two things I really like about this build. One is, and this was on Richard and Flynn's live stream today, they were making a troll set that had these windscreen elements, but they were molded in a solid color. And I threw a comment in the live stream saying, hey, these would make great wheel covers if you just used a snot brick. So there's two studs on either side of this one, and you can see there's the snot brick, and you always want to overlap for strength. So I've got plate, angle brick, and then I'm moving right into what I call slopes on top. So covering studs with slopes. So slot, I guess, would be it, and a tile. So that's what cleans that area up and gives it a nice curve. And then that snot brick right there allows me to snap in that, and I just happen to have two white windscreen elements. I went searching for them just to see if I can pull it off today, and it does. It gives a nice little wheel well cover. And then this is a trick I've used for a long time now, and there's better ways to do it, different ways to do it. But if you look at these Technic pin elements, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know this trick. Short Technic pin element with the stud connector on the side. You can always take that and you can jam it into a brick. It's illegal because it's not actually gripping in all the way, and there will be a little gap, but usually most people, if you hide it or tuck it underneath like what I'm doing here, it's not going to be that noticeable. You see that little gap there? and it's going to have a little bit of play in it, but it's not going to be that noticeable. And then another way of starting to think about snot is thinking about you can turn anything upside down as well. So I have these clips, the umbrella stand bar, which is what I call it. I don't know kind of what else to call it. And then because these have some play in there, if I hold this piece flat, it's going to wind up pressing down and holding in place. The umbrella stand, I like to use these 1x1 studs with the hollow top to them. Okay, so I buy a lot of these because I do a lot of bar technique. It's kind of where I'm transitioning to, is using a bar element, and bars will flip through those, and if you face them side to side, you can always pinch something into place, which is the good old Constraction or Bionicle, open-ended on both sides, large Constraction ball joint or ball, and then here is that posable large-scale figure Stormtrooper leg piece. So this is my little Bionicle / Constraction detail, which I always thought would look like the back of a motorbike, a fast motorbike. And then I just put a red piece on there because the brake lights are so prevalent. If you've ever had a fast race bike ahead of you in traffic or zipping past, that's what I always see, the brake light there. So that's my little bit of flair. A nice little belled detail on the back to give a nice, very fast looking motorcycle back end. And I have to say, now that I'm looking at this, maybe I was subconsciously building the Acura motorcycle in a way with the flat back. This is not going to stay. That's just a figure for doing it. And you'll notice I always love building chairs with the hinge elements in there. So that's what I'm doing. Hinge elements, and then using ingots as the padding. I don't know what else to say. Oh, yeah, this is floating. It's floating up. There's nothing here. That's just for show. That's a T, pneumatic T, going into these Exoforce robot arm pieces, Star Wars arm pieces clipping there. And then in the middle, there's a skeleton arm clipping to the outside, that 3-fur hinge element. And you can lock something in place and make a nice little hingy motion if you have a bar and a bar offset coming to a single bar. It just makes a natural hinge. That's a little bit tighter than usual. I'm going to figure out a way to attach this to this. I just haven't done it yet. I know the way I'm going to do it. It's going to be a little chunky, but I'll get those on there. And then I noticed that there was a bar opening here, so I'm using that for the side view mirrors to come out. And then just brick building outwards. Boy, this thing just loves to go out of focus. Brick building outwards, little headlamp. Oh yeah, and then using a silver whip piece. I had 2 of these, and I've always wanted to break them out, but it almost looks like one of those brake or hydraulics or something coming in and just giving it a little bit of detail and setting those up against the side. I think it's a nice little shout out. And of course, these really long bar elements are normally used for a windsurfing sail, but it was really handy when I needed a really long piece here, and then it's not connected. There's a different connection here, but just by setting it next to each other, it gives the illusion that there's that frame element coming in. And then there, they want to tip up and down, but it's held in place by that pneumatic joint. And then that old ray gun, by turning it upwards, you can see I've kind of pushed it. I'm forcing it to push against the body there a little bit. Yeah, if I do it right, and there you go. So that's going to keep it from wanting to wobble downwards anymore. And then cheating the inside of the tire to get it into that well. It's all about angling things in. These spearfishing elements are just there because they look like shocks to me. They're just kind of resting and tucked inside the negative space of the brick below. So they're not hard connected, but they look like there's some sort of, that's where the shock absorber would be, right, for the cambering of the arm. And then to keep the distance, once again, we're using the T into the chair and using those little bits of not true snap down or nothing's clicking, but kind of using the natural motion of how this thing would flex to stop it against that. So using different grippings and pushings against these different bar elements are keeping that together. And this translucent pink with the new dots, sparkly bit there, that I threw on because if you look at it, these white wheels are too thin for it to stand, but it acts almost like a little kickstand. So when I set it on a surface, it almost looks like it's banking a little bit. Alright, so that is a 2.5 hour build with a little bit of widging and changing things as I went along. But overall, I really like the back. I really like this section. I really like this. This could use some serious work. I'm thinking maybe of ways to put an element, once again, snot sideways and snap it on. It's really not that elegant, but as a quick exercise, I think that's, yeah, look how thin and narrow it is. Kind of yucky. But overall, just kind of throwing bricks together, this is a really nice little build. So I'll have to make a little figure. I'll have to think of something here that would be really cool, and then I would finish it up. But as far as a morning exercise and just trying to blast something out that would get by, pretty nice build with a lot of little techniques going on here to get your minds percolating and thinking differently about things and how you might connect them together. All right, sweet. Play well, everybody.